Kamala Harris speaks in a more condescending tone. Okay. She says a lot of things without saying a lot of things. Okay. There's usually a laugh involved. I don't know where the laugh comes in.
So sometimes comedy reveals political truths, and this TikToker I think did a pretty good job of that. In her impression of Kamala Harris, she emphasized how condescending Kamala Harris typically is, and how kind of fake she is in a lot of ways. And this is just sort of your standard political thing. When you have the Pete Buttigieg types, the Kamala Harris types, they work very, very hard to craft a brand for themselves and present a very specific image. But the problem with these centrists is that in presenting this particular image, where they try to be appealing to as many people as possible, they often end up being incredibly condescending. Because think about it for a second. If you say something like you want universal health care, that's something that most of the country agrees with, and I think is pretty simple. Except for politicians don't like things to be simple. They want to prove how smart they are by inventing incredibly complicated nonsense to create some sort of perfect centrist position, by Frankensteining a policy together so that they can bring in the political right and the political left and these libertarians and undecided voters. And when you try to mishmash all of these policies together, what you get is Frankenstein's monster of means testing and nonsense. And then when politicians take these nonsense policies that are workshopped to death and bring them to the American people, people are like, what are you talking about? You want a healthcare program, but it only applies to specific poor people in specific areas, and then states get to decide what specific requirements exist for people to get Medicaid? What are you talking about? Does everybody get healthcare, or do we not get healthcare? And this is exactly why people like Kamala Harris are polling so terrible, because a shocking new poll came out revealing that if Donald Trump went up against Kamala Harris head-to-head in the election, right now it is polling such that Donald Trump would beat Kamala Harris by more than 10 points. The new Harvard Caps Harris poll that just came out shows Donald Trump beating Kamala Harris 49-38. And I think the reason is undeniably because these politicians spend so much time trying to craft the perfect centrist policy to win over everybody that they end up winning over nobody. The reality is, either you're a decent human being and you want everybody to have healthcare and you hope that politicians do a good job of making that happen, or you're a selfish person and you think that only rich people deserve healthcare, or only you deserve healthcare, and that it's perfectly fine for people to profit off of denying healthcare to poor people. What people want to see is they want to see a real declarative policy. They want to see at least an ambition to make sure that every single person has things like healthcare, that every single person can get an education, that every single person has access to housing, and not just access to housing, but just actual housing. We want to see politicians who are actually working for our interests and doing everything within their power to make sure that our needs are met. But instead of doing that, the Biden administration right now seems to be focused on creating arcane justifications as to why they can't do the things that we all know that they really can do. Joe Biden can forgive student loans if he wants to. Joe Biden could deschedule marijuana by himself if he wanted to. Every single day, he chooses not to do those things. Now, is it a little bit unfair that Kamala Harris's unpopularity is in some sense Joe Biden's fault because she's part of his administration? Yeah, most definitely. But the reality is Kamala Harris has been defending these policies, and she was the one who went on stage to tell refugees not to come to the United States. So she definitely has culpability as a member of the administration, and she could choose every single day to challenge Joe Biden publicly and to say that he's not doing enough. Nobody's forcing Kamala Harris to say and do the things that she's doing right now. But all of this speaks to the failure of the conventional wisdom of Washington, D.C., of what the centrist Democrats think the American people want. We don't want Frankenstein's monster of means-tested programs that don't really solve the problem. We want the problems that we have to be solved. What people want is not to be condescended to by politicians. People want politicians who work for us. People want politicians who are ambitious, who promise change, and then do everything within their power to make that change. We understand that there are limits to what individual senators or even the president can do. But we also are smart enough to know the difference between them pretending to care and them actually caring and fighting for progress.
This is Ben Carollo with Rebel Headquarters. You can catch my show Galaxy Brain on the Young Turks Twitch channel every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to stay up to date with my content, you can follow me at Benjamin Carollo on Twitter. And for those of you that might be wondering or have noticed, my pronouns are in fact she, her.